Welcome to Thrive in Sales, the sales training and thriving podcast. Hi, I'm Neeraj. I'm an interactive sales trainer and one-to-one coach. I get results for small businesses and deliver training to large corporates like Barclays, NatWest, and Sainsbury's. I'm the author of 2 best-selling books on Amazon.
And I'm Keith. I've sold IT services into investment banks throughout my career, and I sales-led a software outsourcing contract worth well over $1 billion back in the day. I'm now a sales coach and visiting lecturer at Aston Business School.
Every week, we'll share proven strategies to help you generate more sales. Plus, we'll bring well-being experts onto the show to give you the knowledge, strategies, and takeaways you need to thrive in sales. And this week's topic is dealing with indecisive clients. And our special guest is Dr. Pat. Now, Dr. Pat helps you live longer and better by improving your habits, your health, and your happiness. She's been delivering science-based solutions for over 3 decades, helping tens of thousands of people to stop adapting their lifestyle to pain and health problems that accelerate the aging process. Dr. Pat, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
No, so are we. And today's topic is going to be about indecisive clients. So I was working with a client on Friday, and they were just telling me their concerns. They have so many clients they're working with who just are not making decisions at the moment. And all of us have clients in our pipeline who are just sometimes being very polite, but just can't say yes, or they're too British to say no. And those who sometimes just need a bit more understanding and a bit more nudging. So Kate, tell me, how do you deal with indecisive clients who are unable to make a decision?
Well, you asking Keith or were you asking me?
No, you carry on.
Okay.
Keith's voice going up an octave. It's beautiful.
Well,
No,
I was gonna help you out big time here, because what's an interesting thing in Chinese medicine is that people who can't make decisions usually have problems with, it's correlated from research that I've seen, that experience have seen and read with the gallbladder. So people who can't make decisions have a lot of problems with perhaps some fat metabolism problems, choices in foods. And so if you're not metabolizing fats, then the gallbladder gets really clogged up. The liver can't do its job. And your digestion can't do its job. So, your mind is a little bit shifted into even subliminally into other things that are going on bodily. So sometimes those indecisive things relate back to some organ systems and things that are not in balance and harmony in the body.
Wow. Okay. Well, I did not know that. Thank you very much. It's worth you coming on the show already, Pat. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Don't leave just yet, though, because we'll put you under the cosh a little bit later. Going back to Neeraj's point on, people can be indecisive. It can come across as being indecisive, but actually there might be a myriad different things going on in your client's environment. It could be organizational. They're having another restructure going on, which means they can find any amount of excuses not to decide on you or your solution, whatever it is you're selling to them. There may just be, actually, you just haven't given them enough reasons to buy from you. And it's therefore your fault that they cannot decide on buying from you. So the best thing to do is just kind of understand what they're trying to tell you and ask questions, high gain questions that are going to help you understand more about their situation. But frankly, if you were doing your job right in the very first place, you shouldn't have ended up, a large percentage of times, you shouldn't have ended up in that position where, oh, we can't make a decision because of X, Y, Z reasons. You've got to take some of the pain for that.
Yes, I think salespeople certainly have to take, and business owners have to take more responsibility sometimes. You can't blame the client all the time if a client can't make a decision. Quite often there's other factors into place, and it's very important to understand what those factors are. At the same time, it's very important to walk away from certain clients if they're taking too long. If you're still speaking to a client after 6 months to a year and they haven't made a decision yet, you have to ask yourself, is it worth still speaking to this client. And if you want the client bad enough, of course you'll keep trying. But sometimes it's very important to walk away from a client. Have you ever been in a situation, Dr. Pat, where you've just walked away from a client who couldn't make a decision at all?
I have. Well,
please tell me about that.
Well, you know, there's a lot of people get stuck for just a couple of reasons. You know, they get stuck because of money, they get stuck because of time, you know, and they get stuck because of they have a husband or they have somebody else that they're relying on for those 50% kind of decisions. And so when I see patients who are doing that, you know, I start digging deeper in my questioning, you know, and asking them what's really going on, you know, and so it's like, and how much do you really want this? Because there's people who like the idea of being healthy, but they're not willing to do the work that it takes in order to go from point A to point C. So I have experienced that many times in my industry.
Yeah, I love the fact that you mentioned questioning, because in almost every episode we've had, the word questioning has come up, because people are very quick to sell and very slow at asking, you know, spending time asking questions. And also, how much do you really want this? I love that question, because it really gets to the heart of the problem. You know, how much do you really want this? Keith, you're going to add something there.
You've just jogged my memory. I remember once in your sales management career, you're bound to have come across this, where you got one deal in your pipeline which is really polluting your spreadsheet, and there's always one. And I remember one time the company it wasn't a deal in my pipeline, it was in someone else's, but it was the British Library. Which is has got a bigger profile, Pat, as the New York Library would have for the United States. It's a big deal. And lots of the country's historical documents are stored in there. And the British Library was on, the company I was working for, is on their forecast for 9 years. 9 years. And this is a government IT,
right.
Well, it's a government building, but it's a government project. That was about 9 years being late in being delivered, because we probably went through successive governments in the meantime. But it's one of those things that it wasn't a no. There were genuine bona fide reasons for it being late. But the salesperson of record at the time was, there's nothing you can do about it, not unless you can ring up a minister. Well, you can't even do that these days. And just say, listen, order does not work like that. And you've got to understand what your client's process, whether you love them, those processes, or not. You've got to work with those processes, because your customer has to work with those processes. So, yeah, just took me back in time. 9 years.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, look, this show isn't just about sales, it's about sharing lots of well-being tips. And Dr. Pat, I know from the people that Keith and I have spoken to, 1 in 5 people, have a depression or a mental health problem. That number has increased to 1 in 4 during COVID. And I'm certainly keen to know from your perspective, why do people get sick for?
Let me can I ask you a question on what you just said for your stat? Is that the stat for the UK, not the 1 in 4?
1 in 4, that's a really good point. I believe that is actually UK.
Okay, as in the States, it's 1 in 3. We have a lot more sicker people here, which is probably why we have more COVID cases here. But the 3 reasons why people get sick, when people always want to blame something else about why they got sick. Oh, it's my genes, or it's my, my Aunt Rosa, I was at her house and I'm allergic to the sudden whatever it is. They're certainly not allergic to sugar. So when you look at those numbers, like for depression and for chronic illness and disease and for people who are plain old sick, they all come back to one thing. And the thing they come back to is inflammation. So, Time Magazine did this front page thing on inflammation in 2004, and it was February 23rd. And it said, it was surprisingly, the connection between inflammation and chronic illness and disease, such as heart disease, obesity, depression. We know depression is no longer a part of the brain issue. It is a stomach issue, and it's based upon what you eat. things that make you sick, the primary is inflammation. The three things that fall underneath that are trauma, and toxins and thoughts. So trauma are things like the 9 out of 10 children or babies when they are born have some type of cervical trauma from the birthing process. A lot of people just don't ever do anything because the baby just lays there and you hold them and you support their head, because they always tell you to support their head, but they weren't supporting their head during the birthing process or their neck. So a lot of people, that's first structural interferences during that time. And that's why I'm a big proponent of having babies, children, you know, adjusted by chiropractors or good osteopaths that have knowledge in how to do that in a way that is very, you know, more subtle, because children's spines are much more vulnerable. And then you have toxins, and toxins are like, well, look around you everywhere. I mean, we have them, you know, in the food that you eat, the water that you drink, the air that you breathe. You have them in cleaning products in your house. If you ever started to, you know, take the time and take a cleaning product and put it next to your computer and look up the ingredients in there, you will find that many of them are carcinogenic. And you have that subtle exposure all the time, which interferes with, or if you're drinking like water out of plastic bottles, you know, it's, the problem is not the water in the plastic bottles. The problem is that the plastic has been exposed to high temperatures, either sitting in the sun or sitting in extreme cold. You know, and there's, you know, the foods, like people never read labels on a food, you know. I had a very short-lived relationship one time with somebody who couldn't stand going grocery shopping with me, because I want to know what, my body's a sanctuary and I want to know what I'm feeding it, you know, and there's not much you can do so much about the air that you breathe, you know, but the water you have a choice on. And you also have, you know, choices on your cleaning products in your house. So you can make your life much more green,
Wonderful.
you know, and
I have to ask, you brought up so many good points there. I want to go back to one thing you said a few minutes ago, one thing you've just said now. Depression is longer the brain, it's the stomach. Now, I've read a lot of research in depression, I've read a lot of articles, even books. I've never kind of heard it come across that way. Why does depression come from the stomach, please?
Because you are what you eat. You are what you have the availability to absorb. I mean, people can eat things that, you know, like sugar, for instance, increases inflammation straight across the board. So people kind of eat it to kind of have that feel-good feeling. But then an hour and a half, 2 hours later, they're having that slump. And so most of the serotonin in your body, and an ingredient called SIG-A, are your immune system in your gut. So when you have to process your foods. If you're not processing your foods correctly, and they're going to the liver, and the liver is not processing, and detoxification is the process that it does, not what you do to it, then those toxins are going to go back out into the blood, bone, and brain. And so it's going to affect that, or else they're going to be recycled again until the liver is overwhelmed again, and it's going to go back into the blood, bone, and brain. The idea is to take those toxins and get them out of your system, either in after the liver does its job and puts it into the intestinal tract, or to take it, and if it's micro, it will go to the bladder and you'll pee it out instead.
And what are these foods that are causing us this inflammation?
Sugar. Like high processed foods, you know, there's, you know, like all you have to do is just go to McDonald's. I mean, you have to take a look at when you're looking at like a can of Coca-Cola, you know, and that has 22 grams of sugar in it, or 22 teaspoons, excuse me, of sugar in it. No one sits down and eats that, you know, in a setting. So it's just like, and nobody, you know, people drink orange juice. The serving size for orange juice really is 1/3 of a cup. It's not, you know, 8 ounces or 16 ounces, and you get those oversized things. And so when you take in all that sugar, it overloads the body. Sugar also cuts your digestion. So, you know, you ever know, like, you know, those big meals that you have, if you have dessert too soon after you eat, you want to go to bed. Yeah. You know, and you want to sleep it off, and you're thinking like, oh, it was just the, you know, the people I was with or something. And it really wasn't, but it was really, a lot of it is influenced by the foods that you eat. So, you know, that's where, you know, more research now comes that, you know, depression and like mood changing things, even in Chinese medicine, they always look at the gut. They always think if you have a good, strong, healthy gut and digestive system, and, you know, and it's in good health, then you'll be able to absorb the nutrients that you need, which is usually done in the small intestine, and then goes out to the body and be utilized in the right place.
Okay, fantastic. And the second question is about water. Now, I'm going to, to those of you listening on audio, I currently have a bottle of water here. And you talked about water being either in the heat or in the cold. What's the best way to consume water then?
The best way to consume water is filtered, and not only have it filtered, but also have it so that it's room temperature.
Ah,
So
really?
in the summertime, you know, it makes sense to have a cold drink because, you know, you told me this morning it was sweltering there,
Oh, it's
and
very hot in
you know,
England, yes.
and it's been pretty hot here also. So, you know, have ice cold, cool water, you know, makes sense. And the, you know, for anybody in the summer, have more frequently. But for water itself, if you leave it out in room temperature, you can drink more of it. I mean, the amount of water someone should drink for their body weight, you know, in, you know, ounces, you know, is half your body weight. So if I weigh 150, then 75 ounces would be my goal. So I saw you had a liter and a half, about a liter and a half in your hand just 2 seconds ago. So that's like around 39 ounces, something like that. So for me, if I drank 2 of those a day, because I weigh 150, I would be like, I'd be golden. I'd be really near my mark as far as that. So, you know, I also tell people to put a little bit of lemon juice in water, because when you put lemon juice in water, it helps you to be able to absorb the micronutrients that you're eating. And it sets the tone of the right kind of acid in your stomach and in your intestinal tract so you digest your food better.
That's fascinating. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Keith, fire away.
Thank you. You say I shouldn't really joke about weight, but it's one of the few things that I am an authority on.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you were talking about 150, I just thought, is that pounds or kilos? I know the answer. I'm just joking.
Pounds.
But anyway, for the benefit of the tape, it was pounds. So, but you're right. When I travelled a lot to and from New York, they always came round with a glass of hot water with a slice of lemon juice, and and they talk about aiding digestion, which I didn't, but you've just proven that to be true. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Ah, great.
Well, one thing you mentioned is about, we were speaking beforehand, and you mentioned the mindset shift. So can you tell me a bit more what the mindset shift is, please, Dr. Pat?
Well, a lot of people want to like lose weight, they want to get healthier, and they read about it and they see all those apps and ads. It's like, you know, do this, you know, do this questionnaire now, you know, and then when you get to the end of it, they're so complicated that you can't get past it and you put it down. So in order to have, I found, is one of the first things I work on with my clients is I work on their mindset. So tell me what we got going, tell me what you want to do, tell me where you want to go, and tell me what your goal is. Because some people set goals that they set themselves up for failure because they don't want to succeed. I mean, even though they don't consciously really say that, but you have, you know, you've got to take a look at what someone's mindset is around that, you know, and you got to look at, you know, who are their supporters, you know, because like if I'm going to, like, you know, let's say we were married and I wanted to do this fast and you're going, I think fasts are bogus, I'm not going to support you on that, then there's tension every morning when you get up, you know, and living in an environment that's not supportive. So it's important to have people around, you know, accountability buddies, you know, things like that around when you're trying to make those shifts. So, but the first thing is you got to find out where someone's at, because you and talk to them in their language where they're at, so that you guys get on like the same page. And then you can move on to like, okay, so how do I overcome this obstacle? It's like, first off, you know, it's just a mindset shift. You just have to like take a look at it, you know, and like, how do we make it so that you think what you're doing makes the world round as opposed to flat?
Perfect. No,
Yeah.
definitely you need to find out where someone is at, I think is so important. Probably the reason why most diets don't work is everybody's obviously at different stages when they are going through the situation. And the last question is, tell me about Western medicine and the fire department, please.
I know that sounds pretty confusing, isn't it? Like how they relate. I'm just going to tell you a story. So you know, if your house was burning down, you would not call me, you would not call a dentist, and you would call a fire department, because the fire department has the right tools in order to put the fire out for you. And the terms of coming to put the fire out for you, and they represent Western medicine. So, and putting the fire out for you, they come to your house with two tools, an axe, which represents surgery, and a hose, which represent medications or like IVs, that type of thing. So when they come to your house, they break through the door, they break through the windows, they come in with hoses, and they squirt everything down. If you remember, recently there was a lawsuit on Xantex and Prilosec, or Nexium, I can't remember which one it was, probably Prilosec, and that, you know, they both come in and they say, they actually, in the commercial, there's a fire engine that comes into someone's stomach to put the fire out. But the thing is that those things hose the situation down, and they don't go to the root problem. You know, and then you got this carpenter guy that has to come in and look around going, oh my God, look how much damage there is from this fire. You lost all your heirlooms, which is all your microbiomes and all your flora in your stomach. And, you know, I know people who have been and had colonoscopies, they said their stomachs never felt the same. It's because they washed everything out, but they only look at the large intestine. You know, it's like, that doesn't make sense to me. There's got to be a different way, a better way. You know, so that, you know, the carpenter's got to put all those pieces back together so that you can go back to, you know, having a flourishing gut. And the gut is one of the biggest things that is one of the easier organ systems that you can be directly involved in with your lifestyle choices, you know, so you're making good lifestyle choices so that you can have better health. And that, but that's the fire department. The fire department, it doesn't go to the root problem. The carpenter goes to the root problem, you know. And even if you look at alternative medicine tells you to go, oh, take B12 for, you know, high blood pressure. Well, there's you know, Western medicine meds for high blood pressure, and there's natural stuff for high blood pressure, but you still don't know why you have the high blood pressure. You've got to test. You can't guess. You got to know, why do I have that? What is it in my environment? What am I doing and I'm participating in that makes it so that I'm exposed myself to have this expression of this health at this point in time? And then you got, when you know that, you can go backwards.
Brilliant. That is amazing. Keith, fire away.
Really, really good point about going back to the root cause. And we can analogize that with business. I always talk to salespeople and clients about, I don't know, absenteeism. I don't often talk about absenteeism, but I happen to know something about this. That it's 10 days per employee or whatever it happens to be per annum. Well, why is it that? And they often come out with blunt instruments to try and somehow get that number down and come out with some productivity kind of statements. Also, I was talking with excuse me, I was talking with a friend of mine who works for a really big IT firm, and he said to me, I've made the decision to retire. He's got about 10 years on me, I guess. Made the decision to retire. And I said, okay, why is that? I thought things were going so well. And he said, well, I went to the doctor about 3-4 months, a few days prior to lockdown, and doctor took his blood pressure reading, BPR, 211. 211. Wow. And I said, well, I thought you'd have to be in hospital to have a reading like that. But so lockdown came at the right point in time for him. Went back 3-4 months of just acclimatizing, being out of the business, away from the job, and all of a sudden, you know, feels so much better. Blood pressure reading right on the money, fit and healthy again. So I think we all have to look at now. Clearly, not all of us are in a position to give up our jobs, and I wouldn't want to anyway because I really like what I do. But it is important to have a look at what is going on in your life to cause you to have readings like that, and everything's happening for a reason, as Dr. Pat says. No, I'm not a doctor, but that just makes sense at every level. Absolutely.
No, absolutely. That's amazing. Well, look, go ahead, Dr. Pat.
I'll just tell you about one little thing on that because I think it's important. You know, when you talked about this gentleman who had you know, who had this reaction to his job and to his life, I will bet that that person was not doing very well in his supplementation and was not taking, you know, that has problems with boundaries. And, you know, so no matter what division of life that you're in or what occupation that you have. This transpires over. I used to say, if you're going to be under that kind of stress, you better eat really well and you better take stellar supplementation to support your body under that stress. It's essential. And, so people, I really love helping people like that because it isn't like you can't do a stressful job that you like, but how do you maximize yourself so that you express the best health habits and happiness that your friends are like, what are you doing? And it's like just really simple, like everyday back to basics things that you just don't, consider.
No, exactly. Well, Keith and I are both, sales trainers, but this is what we do for a living. And it's not just what you learn, it's the action points you take away. And looking at some of the great notes we've made today, a lot of people who can't make a decision have gallbladder problems. I know. I mean, it's remarkable. People who can't make decisions have gallbladder problems. That's a new one for me, and I love it. The importance of questioning in sales. How much do you really want this? Really understanding the company's organization, structures, having enough reasons for them to buy from you. And then, of course, on the well-being side, inflammation causes heart disease, obesity, depression. Depression is no longer the brain, it's your stomach. I can guarantee you most people did not know that. We all know the old saying, you are what you eat, but especially avoid sugar, high processed food, cans of Coke, which cause inflammation. Have the right supplementation, have room temperature water. Keith, is there anything else you'd like to add to that, please?
You've stolen all my notes here, so I'm certainly going to cite the certainly not allergic to sugar. I got that right between the eyes. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Pat.
Thank you.
And I'm also just to the point on indecisiveness, because we have a sales team around that British Library and that 9-year story. So that was outside the salesperson's control. The trick is understanding what you can do something about and what you just can't. And so you don't spend any more time trying to, pull a rabbit from the hat when it's actually not possible to pull a rabbit. You will frustrate everyone and you'll end up with a 211 blood pressure reading as well, because, you just shouldn't be in that space.
Exactly. Well, Dr. Pat, tell us, what are the best ways for our audience to reach you, please?
Well, one of the ways that you can reach me, and for people who are viewing, this is a copy of my recent bestseller called Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired?
Lovely.
And it's, when you're fat, you can look in a mirror basically, or have a bio, like a composition scan, and if you're tired, but you don't always know when you're sick. Like look at the guy who got a blood pressure reading suddenly of 211. He wasn't paying attention, and there's other things factors that are going on underneath. So people can get a hold of me by buying my book. It's on Amazon. It's an international bestseller. You can get a hold of me through I'm on LinkedIn for people who are connected on LinkedIn. And that would be under Dr. Pat Boulogne. And Facebook, I have a Facebook page. I have an Instagram page. My website is healthteamnetwork.com. And you can always email me at askdrpat@healthteamnetwork.com.
Okay, and how do you spell your surname, please, Dr. Pat?
It's B as in boy, O-U-L-O-G-N-E.
Fantastic. B-O-U-L-O-G-N-E, and the book, Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? International bestseller, available from Amazon. Thank you so much. Well, if you have any questions, any points you want to raise in future shows, or if you want to hire Neeraj and Keith for sales training, please email us at hello@thriveinsales.com. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
This episode is brought to you by Monkey Pants Productions. We're a podcast production company helping businesses enter the world of podcasting through bespoke workshops, professional standard recordings. For more information, you can email pete@monkeypantsproductions.co.uk.
Now, Keith and I are both massive fans of the TV show Frasier. So until next week, we're both wishing you good sales, mental health. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Pat.
Thank you.